Welcome to Capital Dateline Online. I'm with our guest, Jim Saunders, Executive Editor of the News Service of Florida. Well, Jim, we had some news in the Governor Scott, CFO Atwater decision on the insurance commissioner.
Yeah, whoever thought that hiring an insurance commissioner would be a month-long drama. But Governor Scott and CFO Jeff Atwater could not agree on a successor for Kevin McCarty, who's the longtime insurance commissioner who had planned to leave this week. He had planned to step down from his job. But they spent about a month going back and forth. The governor and CFO Atwater couldn't agree on a replacement. Finally, Friday afternoon, they held a special meeting, and they wound up with a compromise candidate who hadn't been put forward earlier in the process by either one of them. It's named David Altmeyer, who is a deputy commissioner within the State Office of Insurance Regulation. He's one of McCarty's deputies. But it was kind of an interesting process because the governor and the CFO had to agree on a candidate to take to the full cabinet for approval. And the governor wanted a gentleman by the name of Jeffrey Bragg, who had run a federal terrorism risk insurance program. And CFO Atwater wanted Bill Hager, who's a state representative from down in Palm Beach County. And neither one of them would budge. And they literally went a month going back and forth trying to find another candidate.
So they compromised.
And they compromised in the end. Another part of the agreement is that Kevin McCarty will stay on for as much as 60 days to help with this transition with Altmeyer. Part of the reason for that is that hurricane season starts June 1st. And typically there's no hurricanes on June 1st, but on the other hand...
From your mouth to God's ear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, you never know. It's been, 11 years. Yeah. But there is, planning and transition that needs to go into that process. Also, the insurance commissioner is a big job. I mean, you're overseeing all kinds of lines of insurance. You're overseeing a staff of, I forget, it's 250 staff members or something like that. You're overseeing just tons of forms that come in. There is a transition going to happen, but they look like they finally put this issue behind them. But for a long time, the governor and CFO were at odds, which we don't see a lot on the state cabinet.
So on a related vein, we've got another insurance decision coming down from the Supreme Court on workers' comp.
Yeah, well, this is going to be one of the big challenges that Altmeyer's going to face pretty quickly, is that the Florida Supreme Court ruled last week that they basically found unconstitutional a limit that was in the workers' comp law on attorney's fees for the attorneys who represent injured workers. This case it's been out there for a long time, and the business groups and the trial bar and labor have been watching this case because attorney's fees are a major part of, or a heavily debated part, let's put it this way, of the workers' comp system, because businesses have always argued that more litigation, more attorney's fees drives up workers' comp insurance rates for businesses. So they had, in 2009, passed a law that put pretty strict limits on attorney's fees. This case that went before the Supreme Court, the attorney who represented an injured worker got the equivalent of $1.53 an hour for his work. And the Supreme Court basically said this violates the Constitution, it's due process rights, and tossed it out. But the fallout of all that is that the business groups are already saying that this is going to cause insurance rates to go up. McCarty has already put out a statement saying we don't know how much, what exactly it's going to do, but we think it's going to cause rates to grow up. As a result, this is all going to land back in the legislature. They're going to have to deal with this attorney's fee issue. Whether it's a special session, whether it's next year's regular session, they're going to have to deal with it. They're going to be under a lot of pressure to deal with it. And workers' comp debates can turn really messy because there's a whole lot of parties. It's not just business groups and trial bar. There's union groups, there's hospitals, there's doctors, there's chiropractors, there's all kinds of groups get involved in these debates. So it could open up a pretty big debate going forward here.
And then, not in the insurance vein, we have incoming Senate President Joe Negron has been taking kind of a higher ed tour around the state. Tell us about that.
Well, Joe Negron is pretty much assured of becoming Senate President after the November elections, and he's already laying down a marker that one of his priorities is going to be higher education issues, trying to increase funding for the higher education system, universities specifically. Trying to increase money for Bright Future scholarships, trying to increase money for financial aid, trying to help universities compete for faculty. He took a tour of the state. He went to each of the universities, and he called it a fact-finding tour, but it's a little bit of PR too. It builds pressure on putting this out there that this is going to be a priority. We haven't really heard that from the leadership over the last few years in the sense of making it a funding priority. When the recession hit, Florida, like a lot of other states, the amount of state funding going in the university system went down, and so it's been a challenge for the universities. Another issue that sort of overlays all this is Governor Scott has made clear he wants no part of tuition increases, and this has been the past few years. Negron isn't pushing for tuition increases. He says he doesn't necessarily want them. I think probably the political reality is he knows the governor would never go along with them. But so that's but there's a lot of people in the higher ed world who think that more tuition is necessary. That Florida students actually get a bargain relative to their competitors. But that's not going to be on the table. So they're going to have to find money in the state budget to go into universities. Negron talks about wanting to make some Florida universities of the caliber of University of North Carolina, University of Michigan, Berkeley, those sorts of public universities that are known nationally as premier universities. So that's sort of the high goal he has set. And it'd probably take a number of years, but he's certainly laying it out there as something he wants to focus on over the next 2 years when he's Senate President.
Thanks, Jim. For more about Florida politics and government, go to the Advances section of our website and keep coming back to Capitol Dateline online for daily postings.